We're going to start off with the frontline changes report, and we have multiple changes again over the past 24 hours. A lot of change over at Starycia, Makievka, Ivanivske, Klishchiivka, Novo-Oleksandrivka, Sokil, Netilove, as well as Novo-Mihailivka. So let's start off with the Kharkiv front over at Starycia. So at the Starycia region, there is a geolocation over here within Starycia itself, highlighting Russian movement towards the center of Starycia. The Ukrainians probably are still at the settlement with despite the Russian Defense Ministry has declared that they have captured Starycia on the 18th of May. It seems like the fighting is still ongoing around this region here, as the Ukrainian Defense Ministry continue to report about fighting in this area. And the geolocation is of some of Ukrainian Russian forces getting fired upon by the Ukrainians, probably by artillery. I didn't see the footage, so that's about it. So this is a frontline change over at Starycia. Over the next frontline change is over at Makievka. Over at this front, this Makievka is criminal front. So at this region here, due to a geolocation of Ukrainian forces getting hit by airstrike, this invalidated the entire front, the overlapping claim, because previously the Russian line is here, which means that the Russians are not at this region here, which means that the Ukrainian mapping is actually more accurate. So we have this frontline change around at Makievka. So there's just one update. It's an invalidation of the Russian claim. The next frontline change is over at Ivanivske. So Ivanivske is over at the Bakhmut front. This is Bakhmut city. And the Russian forces have advanced in this area here. This is actually a Russian claim. So the Russian forces have expanded their control around Ivanivske. However, based on the Russians' mapping, the Russians do not have this area here. They did not, in the Russian mapping, did not claim this area. However, we have already mapped this based on Ukrainian mapping as well as some geolocations. So no. So this is the combined mapping. So this is probably what's currently happening with the Russians having created a full buffer around Ivanivske. But of course, this is just a Russian claim, so we'll continue to wait and see if we have any corroboration. The next frontline change is south of Klishchiivka. So yesterday I mentioned about this this weird geolocation where we do not know where the Russians attack from. With over the past 24 hours, you have more information and more geolocations, with Russian forces raising the flag in the middle of Klishchiivka and geolocation of Russian forces in the most southern part, which makes this a very phallic looking thing, border appearing in Klishchiivka, and Russian forces went deep all the way. They went all the way in, and so this which means that we now know that the Russian forces actually entered from the north all the way to the south, and even geolocated all the way at the very end. But this does not signify the capture of Klishchiivka, because there is still parts of Klishchiivka that is not captured by the Russian forces. So the Russians still have work to do, and the settlement is so flattened that it's very unlikely that the Russians want to stay within this region here. It's going to take a lot of effort, I think, for the Russians to capture, because everything around in here is all the high point, so it's going to take a while. So I'll talk more about it in the strategy and tactical reporting. So this is Klishchiivka. The next frontline change is over at Novo-Oleksandrivka, over at the Avdiivka front. So this is Avdiivka city. This Avdiivka city. And over at Novo-Oleksandrivka, the Russian forces have entered Novo-Oleksandrivka, with the Russians geolocated right at the entrance through the tree line into Novo-Oleksandrivka. And this marks the start of the battle of Novo-Oleksandrivka, and we will continue to monitor and see how this develops. So this is a surprising change. This because the Avdiivka front, we are seeing a lot of Ukrainian counteroffensive, and somehow the front line still move in the favor of the Russians. The next front line change is over at Sokil. So the Russian forces have taken this tree line in the northeastern part of Circle, expanding their control. There is supposedly some heavy entrenchment around here, and of course a massive fortress in the north of Circle. So the Russians are going to be grinding to a halt in a way. It's going to take some effort before they can start the battle of Circle. It's going to be quite difficult. The next frontline change is also at the Avdiivka front over at Netelove. Yesterday I mentioned about the Russians needing to go south, capturing the ground, the urban area, the industrial area or farming area south of Netelove, because the Russians have already taken all of this residential neighborhood. So we indeed have this update based on the information from Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, showing the Russians have indeed taken a huge chunk of this southern part of Netelove. It's still not over yet, but it's pretty soon, because the Ukrainian forces only left with a little bit of Netelove to defend. And if this little bit has fall to the Russians, then Netelove will be captured by the Russian forces officially. So we are looking at soon the fall of Netelove very soon, within the next 24 to 48 hours. And the last frontline change is over at Novo-Mikhailivka. So over at Novo-Mikhailivka, there is an expansion of the Russian control over in this region here. Russian forces attack in the southern part of Paraskovievka, and this is indeed geolocated, with the Russians starting to get a foothold along the tree lines heading towards Konstantinivka. The Russian forces, with this geolocation, clearly have taken control of this entire area, and they're going to start to advance towards Konstantinivka through the tree line, and start the battle of Konstantinivka. There is no updates regarding Paraskovievka in terms of frontline change, so not even battles, so we do not know when the Russians would want to take it. But anyway, that's all for the frontline changes report. And so we're going to move on to the strategic and tactical reporting.